Hey everybody, welcome to our 50th episode of Filling in the Gaps. Whoa!
Welcome to Club Cam and Rich. Bringing the hottest mixes you've ever seen.
Roll for sound.
We will natural 20.
Okay, so
Throw together themes and scenarios every single week.
If you guys are new, hey, we're a little excited. It's our 50th episode. We think that's a pretty big deal. But if you're here and you're like, what the heck's happening? What is this podcast? What did my friend tell me to listen to? Filling in the Gaps is not an actual play podcast, but we brainstorm every single week, hoping to help you actually play and have ideas when you sit down with your friends at your table. In the next few minutes, we're going to mash together a theme and a scenario and brainstorm what that could look like. We could get an observatory where you're eating alive. We could get a bio-exorcism where a monster is walking into a tavern. We don't know what we're going to get, but hopefully we can turn it into something for you to use. Cameron, how's it going, sir?
Richard, I am doing fine. I am having a great week.
Excellent.
And on top of all those things, I am excited to not be doing an item-based monster episode again.
You're beating yourself up so hard about that, man. You didn't go that bad.
No.
It wasn't that
it was
bad.
fine. I'm sure it was fine.
I thought it was good.
But here we are.
I'm
just excited to get back. Yeah, we're back to this, and so I'm excited. We've got a good list of monsters and themes to go off of. And I'm burping, and
that's what we.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's what we do here, Filling the Gaps. We're just the most professional you can get. Burps on stream.
We're your 2019
mics.
burp boys.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Sounds of Rich tapping on things. The entire recording. We're all about the professionalism here, and we know you guys love it, and that's why you guys come back.
Rich, you don't have like a drum quartet, like in your house banging on drums while we're recording
all the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure. I'd always wondered what the,
Yeah, that's what it is.
That little good.
It's the drums.
Okay, I just gotcha. I have. Here's one other thing I was wondering about.
Yeah, what's up, Cam?
Shall we roll?
Let's do it. Man, doing this every other week, it feels like I make it the same. It feels like I make it the same. Let's do it enough. But every
You should
time
inject let's do it into your life.
I should. But you know
it's
what?
Another form of saying yes. So.
Cam, I like that it's special. All right, well, today, if you guys don't know, once again, Cam is rolling for our themes. I am rolling for our scenarios. We're going to mash these two ideas together and see what we get. You ready, Cam?
Let's do this thing.
All right. I got a 15.
And I got a 16.
All right. Well, while you go ahead and put those together, I'm going to let these people know about Libris Arcana dice. Guys, if you love dice, if you want more dice in your life sent to your door every month, then Libris Arcana dice is the service for you. You can get one set of dice sent to you every month, or 3 sets of dice sent every 3 months. And if you use our promo code FITG, you'll get 25% off your first order. We love them. We know you guys will love them. Give them a try. Now, Cam, what do we get?
So we've mixed together the themes and the monsters. We figured that would be a cool little combination. So some weeks we might get monsters, some weeks we might get themes. This week's theme is a ghost ship. And this week's scenario is the Centuries Festival. Which I'm not too familiar with, actually. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what the Centuries Festival is.
I'm, we're real cultured here at Filling in the Gaps. We know about a lot of movies and books that not everyone knows about. And, Cam, I'm really surprised you don't know what the Centuries Festival is, because anyone who Googles Century Festival would know that it is that it is
hanging on every word.
That it is 2019 Carolina Country Music Festival with the dates of June 6th, 2019. So
Okay. All right. So we got a country music festival going on a ghost ship. I'm excited for this one, man.
I don't think that's
I'm
it
excited.
at all. I'm imagining the Centuries Festival is like, every 100 years, because that's a century. They throw a huge party. Sounds like a European thing.
I don't know, Rich. I'm kind of into the old ghost playing some banjos on a ghost ship.
You would be. But I do love the idea of a festival being mixed with a ghost ship. Like, I think that sounds awesome. Well, Cam, you know what?
So in what way?
I'm throwing it off. Cam, I'm throwing it off. I'm not used to this. We've done episodes and we've taken pauses and I've established a tradition. Cam, when you think of ghost ship and Centuries Festival, what pops into your mind?
An honoring of a mighty war vessel, or something to that nature.
Okay.
And so each year, or each 100 years, I guess if we're talking from a century, they honor the great and mighty galleon that strode into the sky, or flew into the sky, to defend the realm from a mighty being long ago. And so yeah, I think that this century's festival is used to celebrate the warriors that existed upon this ghost ship. And so then what I think of is the ghost ship itself. There was maybe there was one singular ghost ship, or maybe there was multiple ghost ships, and then one took all the fame and glory, and there were other ghost ships that that were present and that were there defending alongside this, extravagant sort of ghost ship itself. Yeah, I need another I need another word for ship. But anyways, a vessel. There's that. I know galleon. I know a galley. I know warship. But anyways, they feel slighted by this town that consistently provides maybe goods or positive energy or thoughts or whatever the festival's for. And now these ghost ships have reappeared, like Lord of the Rings style, and they're like, we need our comeuppance, or not comeuppance. We need our we need our recognition. We put in a good work. You haven't been giving us our century reviews,
and now we want your booty.
In other words, a raise.
And if you could leave a like and a comment, and hit that bell icon, we'd much appreciate your support on our Patreon.
Everybody's all, okay.
Sorry, this took a weird twist, but I do love that idea. Dude, I love the idea of, I'm seeing a mixture of, like you said, the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, that huge fight scene where Aragorn rolls up and it's like, go get him, Ghost. I'm seeing a mixture of that.
That's the Return of the King.
Oh, sorry about that.
I just watched it. I just watched the 5 hours version of it, and
so you're like, look, I know, but I love a mixture of that scene mixed with like when the Black Pearl first shows up and is attacking the town in Pirates of the Caribbean, like the kind of, it's night, people are in the streets, and then you just have this like horde of these like skeletal pirates like rushing through. And I think too, like, I don't know about, I'm trying to think of where the festival plays in. Is it that the festival is somehow connected to this ghost ship, or is the festival like such a big deal and people are telling whoever's throwing it like, hey, you have to cancel because of this ghost ship or because of this ghost something, and the person throwing the festival is like, that's just like some old wives' tale, and now your party is trying to protect the festival or to take, to get rid of this ghost ship. I don't know, dude. Okay, if I can insert something that I just now thought of, do you remember when I told you about that town I made in one of my games that was just made out of boats?
Yes, I do remember that.
The floating city. Okay, so this could be
floating city.
This could be a cool way of introducing that kind of concept. So the floating city, if you guys are newer, was a city that my players used as a home base. It was being pulled by the actual god of commerce. Like they went ahead and just roped these giant chains around this god, and over time, it started with one boat and then several boats. They would just kind of follow this god from one port to another in this giant body of water, and eventually they just roped their boats together and created a giant floating city. When you're pulling up, you see that it's just made out of all these boats, but on top of these boats is now a supported city. It could be a cool way of mixing that idea of a ghost ship and a Centuries Festival. Maybe there was a festival a long time ago, and there was so much celebration or so much going on, and people were just being... Maybe there was even specifically the guy who threw the Centuries Festival ignored health and safety codes and caused a bunch of people to die because he was like, oh, it'll be fine, nothing's going to collapse. And now you're kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. Now it's 100 years later, and the same guy is throwing another Centuries Festival, and these ghosts are showing up to kind of haunt it because they want revenge on this dude.
Okay, I like this. I like the idea of an accident or an incident long forgotten, and it could be a cover up in a lot of ways. You know, war and subterfuge and all that kind of stuff that deals with hiding away the facts to sort of manipulate the way a population thinks is something that happens pretty commonly, especially in, you know, like fantasy realms like this. And so what you make me think of there is this guy or this person, whomever it may be, they a long time ago were a part of like a big cleansing project or something like that, where they were essentially cleansing a town of what they may have viewed as evil, but in reality it was like a, let's say, you know, something that it was like a witch hunt, right?
Yeah.
In a sense. And so this bad person essentially rid the town of all these people by casting them aside off of the side of the floating city.
Ooh.
And in time, those souls all collected, and they weren't able to find closure, and so in that they found the ability to muster up like a ghost ship or something like that. At which point, then after the 100 years came about, then they were able to come back and attack. I don't know why they would wait 100 years, but it's just something I'm thinking of. Like it would. Because at first it would be like, as you present it to your players are like, huh, this is like a good old-fashioned festival or something like that. And then you present the big bad, or as so they think, the ghost ship. And then when, upon further investigation, the ghost ship is in fact like a chained soul to the world. And they need to be set free. And so then there's like this, then it creates this like situation where your players are subverted in terms of their expectations, which is always fun. That's a great way to get the moment out of the players. And at the same time, it creates a really quality big bad for a single session or for a multi-session.
Man, and I'm loving this idea too of this chained ship. I'm trying to think of how to tie it into a festival. That's because for me right now, I'm getting a lot of cool stuff about a ghost ship, but the festival is the hard part. But this other idea I had that you kind of sparked in my mind was maybe there was this captain of a ship or something like that, or this politician or a wizard or whoever, some power figure was on a ship, and maybe he made some kind of deal with something out in the water, or maybe he performed some kind of ritual, or maybe there's just something shady that happened, and like you said, he just needed to kill everybody on this vessel, and he just kind of kicked them off or whatever.
Oh, boom. Okay, actually, can I jump in?
No,
I don't usually do this.
Please. No. I love when you do this.
So what you're saying is like make it go out, and so what if there was some trickery afoot?
Okay.
And
okay.
there was like a great sea god or sea demon that asked for the sacrifice of many innocent civilians, and that would in turn provide this individual power and endless life or whatever it may be. And then so they go, here's our Centuries Festival. And then they go, oh, let's go out and have a great time. And then they go get on this big boat or something like that. And, oh, Rich, I mean, you've got even more ideas now.
Keep going.
It's every 100 years, this person makes sacrifices to maintain their life essence. And that's the Centuries Festival. And so essentially the Centuries Festival is this thing that these people go to ascend or something like that. It's pitched as like an ascension to this elite godhood or something like that, when in reality this person takes them out on the boat, gets this demon to come up, kill all the people on the boat, and then it goes, you have now fulfilled your duty for the 100 years. Live another 100 years in peace or something like that. And so the person goes back and they're like, I've successfully allowed all of these people to ascend, and in the next 100 years you'll have an opportunity to do so. And they are so happy, and so they've got a good cover up and stuff like that. But then there's people that get suspicious, Richard.
I hear you.
They get suspicious.
Can I jump in real quick?
Jump in like a swan dive.
I'm swan diving in. Okay, so
Boom.
Back to the floating city. Every 100 years, because of lore reasons, that's when this certain creature needs to feed or needs a sacrifice or is close enough for the sacrifice. I would suggest an aboleth, which is like a perfect, very Cthulhu-esque, very mind manipulation, old one type creature. Now, I think the festival is actually a great cover for this sacrifice, because during a festival, there's a lot of people pushed together. There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of celebrating, whether that's just, the poor down and outers on the street who no one seems to miss when they're gone, or whether it's people who sail here and never leave. There's just this festival that happens, and to the common folk, they're just either oblivious to it or they turn a blind eye to what's happening. But this cult is moving through. They're making these sacrifices, and although the sacrifices are appeasing this aboleth for whatever reason, maybe this 100 years festival, something happens, and maybe there's this ghost ship that comes up of these vengeful spirits who are now like seeking revenge on this festival and on the people who are throwing this festival, who appear to be, squeaky clean, but maybe they're somehow also connected to this aboleth cult, and now you have to go. I don't know. I'm
jumping in here.
Jump in.
And I've got some stuff. Okay.
Tap out.
I'm going to do a swan dive, quality cannonball roll.
Ooh.
And then as I get halfway down, pencil, and then banana.
Okay.
And then boom, and then it minimizes the splash, which is absolutely perfect. It's just there, and then I don't break my ankles or anything like that. So in that dive, based off what you said, the aboleth is perfect. First and foremost, they have the enslave 3 times a day. That's definitely something that would work very well mechanically speaking, and it just makes sense from an aboleth's perspective.
Let me go ahead and explain. Do you mind if I explain an aboleth real quick?
Yeah, go.
Just for the players at home, just for you guys who are driving and can't look up an aboleth. So an aboleth is, I believe, I haven't found the page yet. Yes, it's a large aberration. So imagine a giant squid with only 5 large, huge tentacles. Its head, at the top of its head, is a large open maw with just rows and rows and rows of teeth and 3 eyeballs sitting on top of each other in a straight line. They are incredibly intelligent. They have an intelligence of 18, a wisdom of 15, and a charisma of 18. These are not creatures that you run in just a fight. They are not just going to fight on even level playing grounds. They're going to manipulate. They're going to lure you into a trap. They're going to cast an illusion. And I believe even they even have this inky mucus around them, that any creature that touches this mucus now can only breathe underwater. They can't breathe above water anymore. They have a psychic drain ability, and that's their big thing, is they literally are this Cthulhu-esque, reaching out with this large telepathy. They speak deep speech. They're messing with people in their dreams. They're making these promises, and I believe their actual deep lore is that they've always been enemies of the gods. That they were on the earth before the gods were, and now they're just lying in wait, waiting for their time to have revenge. A few other weird things of lore is that aboleths, when they die, respawn back in the elemental plane of water. And when they reproduce, which is a very slow thing, when they reproduce, they pass all of their memories on to their kin. So they have this perfect memory through the ages, and they've been around since before the gods existed. Like, they literally are the old ones.
A good way to, if you're a movie watcher, a good way to sort of picture the way this thing looks. If you've ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the monster at the very beginning of that movie looks almost identical to an aboleth.
Yes.
So.
Yep. Also, a few other things just for you to know as we're going through this. They have lair actions if they make a lair. So they can cast Phantasmal Force, which is a damaging illusion spell. They can pools of water within 90 feet surge outwards in a grasping tide, and they can pull people in closer. The water in an aboleth's lair magically becomes a conduit for the creature's rage. A conduit, I'm sorry. The aboleth can target any number of creatures it can see in such water within 90 feet of it and deal psychic damage through the water. And then the regional effects are underground surfaces within 1 mile of the aboleth's lair are slimy and wet and are difficult terrain. Water sources within 1 mile of the lair are supernaturally fouled. And as an action, the aboleth can create an illusionary image of itself within 1 mile of its lair. The copy can appear at any location the aboleth has seen before, or in any location a creature charmed by the aboleth can currently see. So it can cast an image of itself through the eyes of someone that it's charmed.
Okay, I am kind of in love with this. Now, shall I? Real quick.
Please shall. Please.
Shall. I have drawn on my paper here a circle and then a squiggly line to another circle.
Okay.
The left circle says city. The right city says aboleth's lair.
Okay.
Right? So, I think having a lair is awesome. I think that. So, because the aboleth has started to affect the people of this town's minds and things like that, it's going to weaken them to sort of be influenced by the cultist of this. This is so Lovecraftian, and I love it. So as these cultists are moving through this town, they're asking people, would you like to go on the grand journey or see the wise one? For he will help you ascend to godhood or something like that.
Dude, this sorry to interrupt for just a second. Mm-hmm. This sounds a lot like It to me. Where whether you've read the book or seen the movie, they talk a lot about
like a clown.
Well, no, not the clown part, but the part where it's the town. The town knows the evil is there, but pretends it doesn't exist. Whether that's because in that movie it was more just out of fear. In our adventure, it could be either because of charm or because of fear. And they know that this evil, they know the cult, they know the sacrifices only happen once every 100 years. So it's kind of like you know what? It is that time of year.
Okay, yeah, because I was almost against that. I actually was like, I would like obliviousness to it in a lot of ways. I feel like that's a better storytelling lever for us, as opposed to going with the fear/charm situation. Mm-hmm. But now that you say it that way, as it's more of like a town that's just accepted their fate every 100 years, there becomes a bit of it feels better to me.
Yeah. Well, and this aboleth is just there continually. Imagine like you live close enough to this aboleth's lair that it's always just draining. Even when you sleep, it's just pulling a little bit at your psyche. As you're going throughout your day, it's just constantly making people a little bit more irritated. And this festival comes around, and you know people go missing, but you don't know why. You know stuff is shady, but you know that afterwards there's more calm.
So then there comes an insurgency group, or like a group that is strong of mind and strong of will to be able to say enough is enough. Mm-hmm. The time has come, and we have a plan. And that's when they present to you the plan of summoning the lost souls of the Aboleth. And that's where you straight up go have your Lord of the Rings moment, where you go and you gather the ghost ship itself, and you go and fight. Essentially, you go and get this ghost ship, and then go fight the Aboleth.
Dude, and
with the ghost ship.
So when Aboleths are killed, once again, when an Aboleth is killed, they respawn back in the elemental plane of water. So maybe this ghost ship was a ship that went out and killed this Aboleth at one point. And then when the Aboleth respawned, he made the town like sink the ship for whatever reason and kill the crew.
Right.
So now you have to go out and you hear stories of the ship, and you have to go. You ever see James and the Giant Peach?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why this is the movie I'm quoting for this, but you go and you have to swim out and you have to find the ship and awaken its crew. All their bodies are still there. But maybe even as you're this creeps me out because I hate deep underwater stuff. It's kind of like a little phobia of mine. So you're just like swimming down through this dark, like pitch black water, and you know the Aboleth is out there. Like he knows that you know, and he's like appearing around there, and he's swimming through and trying to grab at you. And then you tuck up under this sunken boat, and you're trying to reawaken these skeletons through some kind of ritual. I think this sounds super dope.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Because originally I had expected the ghost ship to be the bad, but in reality, I feel like it would be so great to have. And this really falls in line with like people that have recently bought Ghost of Saltmarsh and stuff like that. I think it's called Ghost of Saltmarsh. I'm pretty sure the new D&D book. This is fun. You could start using some of those things that you've learned through reading that book with the ships and stuff like that.
Unintentional plug.
In a story like this. What's that?
Unintentional plug.
I know, seriously. Yeah, thank God Wizards pays us so much to do these episodes.
Seriously.
So, but that really does it. So just to sort of rein us in for a second to see where we stand right now. Essentially, we have the floating city, which, by the way, that's a brilliant idea. That's such a smart thing to have, and that's actually in the current world that we're playing in right now. Am I not mistaken?
It was 25 years ago.
It is gone now. Okay, and so then we've got this Aboleth, this giant sort of demigod of sorts from this town, if you will.
Yeah.
And then we have this awesome lore that our players can sink into, and this gives you as the DM so many great opportunities to plug in fun, exciting DMs, or not DMs, what is it called?
Encounters, NPCs.
Yeah, NPCs on this boat, and give these pirates some very cool, exciting, fun features, and at the same time, I just think that would be amazing. There is one part of me that also would go like, if it respawns in the elemental plane, could we sort of go around the rules and find a way to then like go to the elemental plane? Say for example, so from like a single session scenario, this is city, boat, Aboleth lair. We've got 2 or 3 encounters. We're doing our thing. But like on a multi-session thing, the lore of this could be like, as we died and as the Aboleth sent us to our watery graves, we awoken. We awoke in the elemental plane, and for eons we have been battling the remnants of each and every Aboleth that has come through there. And they're like essentially these guardsmen of the elemental plane, like these water pirates, essentially. And the way I would work that in is like the Aboleth, as its mucus touches things and stuff like that, I would imagine all these pirates are sort of infected.
Oh my
by
gosh,
that.
and that's
so-
perfect because your players will come into contact with the aboleth, which will then give your players the ability to breathe underwater.
Correct.
Now
Yeah,
that will
I
snipe
100%
them.
already thought
That will
that.
snipe them later on, yes, but it'll help them do what they need to do. Dude, I do love what you're saying though. This idea of whether it's just a continual thing or whether it's like it's just something that happens at one point. Like as you are going to awaken these pirates, like you just hear this like giant rip in like the inky blackness of the water, and as it opens up, you just see like one set of 3 pairs of eyes, and another set of 3 pairs of eyes, and another set of 3 pairs of eyes, and this is like literally my worst nightmare. And then these giant like silhouetted tentacle monsters fly out of this portal and into the darkness around you, and then the lights go back off, and you just know that they're out there swimming around, and you hear their like whale call sounds to each other.
I would like these to be like lesser aboleths as well.
Yeah.
So as to like be able, because then you could mess with the stat blocks and make it to where they're not all, challenge rating 10 monsters, but at the same time still provide that sense of dread and that there's this like unending horde of aboleths.
Well, and if you're on the boat too, you could use like some cannons. Because here's the thing: aboleths themselves, and this is why I stress they're not great on a one-on-one playing field. They're not that tough to kill if you just play them as a monster. Like they're challenge rank 10, but they've only got 135 hit points and 17 armor class.
Yeah.
And their tentacle attacks, they make 3 of them, but they only deal 12 damage. Once again, that is a good amount. But where the challenge rank comes from, I think, is from what they do outside of combat, not necessarily what they do inside. Like I think a cannonball like does like 40 to 50 damage. But that's like siege tactics, and they're supposed to be used against other ships. But if you hit if you hit an aboleth 3 times with a cannonball, it's dead.
Yeah, that's true. So it's going to be avoiding and using all of its deception and illusion and stuff like that to be able to avoid these guys. Okay, so are you happy with the direction right now?
Oh yeah,
of the current
dude, I think this sounds awesome.
Story. Yeah. Okay. So then let's start building out. What do you want to start with? You want to start with the floating city itself, and like figuring out, okay, what are the people that present this to the players? How does this come about? Like where do you sort of plug these things in? These little stimulation moments. Where do you do that?
Well, I'd say we need to come up with who the festival is celebrating or what they're celebrating, to see if we can tie that either into the ghost ship or either into the aboleth. Now, we know what the aboleth is doing behind the scenes. Like, maybe the aboleth is even throwing this festival. That seems to make sense.
Through enslaving.
Exactly.
Through the enslavement. Yeah.
But
I picture a sort of like a golden shield with a kind-faced god with 5 arms holding out different aspects of an economy, like
dude, I love
food
this.
and so on and so forth. And so this Centuries Festival is like this bounty kind of thing, right? So the sacrifice allows for the continued growth and bounty of the floating city.
Well, they might not even know of the sacrifice. I think that for the civilians, for the average, goer, it's just a celebration. Every 100 years we celebrate, something. I don't know what they celebrate, and that's where we need to think of. But on the aboleth side of things, what if it is like very Hercules, from Disney movie? The stars align in just a way that this portal opens up to this other plane of existence, and this aboleth comes out and feasts on all of the sacrifices. Or maybe this aboleth is always there, and its kids come out, and it feeds its kids, on a
Yes,
certain
the
night.
kids thing is actually the first thing I thought about. Like, feed my children,
Yes.
blah, 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 blah. And they're just like, I'm hungry. I'm a baby aboleth. So that's actually, if you do run the story, you have to do the aboleths with that voice as well. Yeah, I'm an aboleth. I'm a little fish monster. Okay, so I think that what the Centuries Festival is celebrating is another 100 years of the growth of this floating city and the continued wealth accumulation, and maybe there's the 5 pillars of the economy, and each of like the day it's a 5-day festival, and each of the days represents a different pillar. So one day could be built around food and feasting and all this different kind of stuff like that, and then another day could be, I mean, honestly, I was wondering, like, could you do like a day based around sacrifice? And this is just like a brainwashed people that are like, yes, it is such an honor to sacrifice to the great and noble demigod Aboleth.
See,
Can we just call him Abe?
Abe the Aboleth.
Yeah.
I feel like doing a straight up sacrifice eliminates the feeling of a player of like something shady. It just like kind of hits them over the head with, like,
you're right.
This is really shady. What if though? Floating city, all these boats being tied together. What if one of the days of this festival is, I don't know what to call it, I don't know how to make it pretty, but essentially they're taking old parts of the floating city that are like molded or covered with barnacles, or maybe there's like a ship that's been on there for forever, and they disconnect it and they sink it, but they make it into like a big ordeal where like it's a symbol of like cutting off the things that have like slowed us down, or cutting off, you know, the attachments. Maybe there's like a debt forgiveness thing with it. Maybe there's some kind of attachment to it that like we're letting go of the old. Like, this is a new century. We're pressing on to new things, and so the townspeople are just celebrating this. But also, this boat, this thing that they cut off and they let kind of float behind them. That's where these cultists are storing these people for these Aboleths to eat, and you know that your players are going to end up on that boat, and there's just this whole like, you feel like the disconnect, and as you go out into the water and it's dark out and there's just stars up in the sky, you just see this big well. You see the waves, the flat waves of the ocean that you're on, and then you just see a wave come out of nowhere and just rise and fall, and then you look over and there's another wave and it rises and falls, but this time you see a fin or you see a glowing eye, and you're, dude, for me, that'd be a session where I'd be like,
you don't like the water, do you?
I both love it, but I love it in the same way that like someone might love a horror movie. Like, I love the creepiness of the open ocean, I think, because it terrifies me.
Would you get into the open ocean if you had the chance?
Yes, and I have, but I'm not going to say internally I wasn't always like, I don't belong here. I was made for land.
That is a perfectly good boat right there, man. I'm just saying, can I get there? Can I be on that thing? Okay, so let's figure this out then.
Okay.
Why would the people get on that boat? Because I think that's a very symbolic and beautiful way to present that, and your players still at that point aren't going like, what the hell's going on here?
Maybe it's not like a thing where people know, like, quote unquote, people know that there's people on that boat. Maybe they, like, to the average person, to the tourist who's not like been manipulated, they're just cutting off a boat and they're like, yeah, sinking ships, woo. But like inside the ship, inside the ship are all these prisoners that the cultists have been trapping and moving through the undercity of the floating city.
So these are they don't want to be there.
I think so.
Okay. And then all right. I like that, because then how do we get your players on there?
I think your players have to start. Your players will begin to detect some shadiness, and I think that's where we need to think of some kind of NPC who feeds them the idea that, like, maybe they catch your players celebrating at this festival, and they pull you aside and they say, like, you're not from here. Like, I can tell. Like, you don't have any, like, maybe they say like shady stuff, like you don't smell like the ocean, or stuff like that. Like, you're not from here, and you need to get out of here, or you need to help me.
Yeah, and then come with me. And then this person like runs to the city and keeps on going up to their crow's nest, because that's where their hideaway is, because it would look so sick on this massive city. And that's where they tell you of the shady dealings of the boogeyman, or the cultists that have been stealing these people.
Man, I'd love to think of a better way of doing that too, because I think one of the biggest things of Cthulhu lore is the idea of like the people who sound put together and you feel like you should trust are the people you shouldn't trust, and the people who seem broken around the edges and kind of crazy are the people you should trust.
Okay, so then let's make this person broken around the edges.
What makes him
right?
I think so. Like this is almost like a Crazy Steve from the Quickling episode.
It is pretty much Crazy Steve. The way I was thinking of it is like this crow's nest that's like held together with netting, and barnacles holding up one portion of it, and the house is like rickety, and it seems like the tower is always tilting and swaying in the wind. And he's like, and then the person's like, no, don't worry, just come on through, it'll be perfectly fine. And there's like a blind cat that runs around inside with a pirate's with 2 eye patches on over both of its eyes, or or a parrot that's like, don't listen to him, he is crazy. And it's shut up, you stupid bird. Like that. And so it again, subversion. I think that's sort of like the core theme around Cthulhu. Really, is like what you said right there before. Is it's like subverting the expectations. Like those who seem sane are not, and vice versa. And so,
dude,
I mean, we can paint this person that way.
I'm thinking of how to introduce this character to make it seem like he's kind of nuts. Your players, maybe they have to be enjoying something in the festival. They're either enjoying some kind. Okay, let me throw out some options. They're enjoying what your players, your big strong player, he gets into like a legalized street brawl, or he gets into a boxing match or a drinking contest or something like that, a dart throwing competition, whatever. And or you see it happen and you're putting bets down, and the loser gets knocked out, goes unconscious, and he's getting dragged away, or he's getting escorted to the medical tent by the people who are throwing the festival. And as that's kind of happening, your players are ignoring it. Like they're like, oh, no big deal, he's just going. And then this guy shows up and just starts yelling all this crazy stuff at the people who are taking away this hurt individual. And he's just like, no, don't let them take him. That like you'll never see him again. Oh, don't do this or that. They're gonna drop him into the ocean. Or like the tides are always hungry for people such as this. And he's just going crazy, this guy. And people are like, oh, get this guy out of here. He's always saying this crazy stuff. Get him. Like the authorities are showing up, and your players might not even interact with this guy. They just see that, and maybe some other characters like, I'm sorry, every 100 years when we throw this festival, the people who live on the streets try to make a lot of noise. They see this as their one day a year to make the most noise, so they can get free money, or so they can get whatever. He's just throwing out every excuse. But then maybe at one point too, you introduce him again later, but this time your players actually see something shady happen. Like they do see somebody taking somebody down under the sewers who's unconscious, or they roll a perception check just randomly, and they hear someone screaming, or they hear a muffled sound, and they go into an alleyway and they see 2 guards taking a homeless person down underneath the city, and they're like, whoa, what's going on here? And maybe this is where that crazy character shows up again. And you kind of like turn around and you see him, and he's watching you, watching them, and then you chase him down, and he like looks into your eyes, and he's like, I've been looking at your eyes. You don't got that film over your eyes. Your eyes are clear. Your eyes are clear as day, clear as night. And then you're just like, what? Okay, who is this guy? Like, can you explain what's going on?
Takes a handful of hair out of one of your players, rips it out of their head, and goes, doesn't smell like seashells, I see.
Dude, yes, I love that. And your players are like, so your players are kind of driven to the point where they're like, okay, this guy is crazy, but maybe this town isn't as normal as we think.
Right. Okay. Well, that was beautiful. That was like exactly what we needed. That was like a perfect example of how we would be able to get how A, they were filling the boats filled with sacrifices, and how B, we were able to get our players intrigued enough to do so. My biggest question is this: what if the players don't get on that boat?
I don't think they have to. That's where that would be a cool combat thing if they did. To be like to go down there. Maybe they're trying to get people off this boat. Maybe there's an NPC that they do like who's at this festival, and they heard rumor that he got taken below. So they're going to try to rescue him before the boat gets like sent out, and they're fighting
That's always a great
very like
role.
on top of
That's
the
a great
sinking
way.
ship, fighting, trying to rescue this person before the ship sinks. I'm trying to think. Let me ask you this: 2 questions. One, I think the Undercity could be a very cool environment for some combat encounters or for some sneaking or something like that. What could we do there?
Yeah.
1 question. 2, ghost ship. How do we get the ghost ship back in?
See, my original plan for the ghost ship was that these homeless people, these vagabonds of the city, were actually a part of like a sub network of the sub city that was sort of intentioned on telling you, the player, about these ghosts that need to be resummoned and reawoken. If we were to go out on the boat, well, actually, Rich, if they go on the boat, what if the boat just gets destroyed and eaten up and everything, and those players are left, I mean, it's cliched, but unconscious and covered in goop, floating in the ocean. And as they raise their heads up, as they, maybe they're like laying over a board or something like that, and they raise their heads up to take a deep breath of air, in reality, they start choking, and they don't know why. And then they go underwater, and that's where like they realize they can breathe. So they all float underneath water after this ship has been destroyed. And so we have like 2 options there, essentially. So then the players can then, as they go underwater, then you start dropping some hints. Maybe they see a bright light from beneath some wreckage over deep, in this little small area or something like that.
You know what? If I can chirp in too, real quick. One thing I just thought of that I think is a great way of, if your players haven't seemed interested and this is the quest you have prepared, another way you could get them involved is your players are tourists to this town. No one here knows who they are or will know if they go missing. Maybe they kind of just get like I know this depends on your party, okay?
I know exactly where you're going with this.
This depends on your party and the amount of trust you have between your players and your DM.
You're breaking a rule.
I don't think you are. I've done it before with players. You just have to let them know, like, hey, are you guys okay with something like this happening? It could lead to a really cool moment, and they have to be okay with saying like, yeah. And if not, then okay. But like just like straight up chlorophyll, like they get somehow captured or kidnapped, and as they're passing unconscious, they wake up, and that's the big thing. That's where this trust has to exist between your players and the DM. Like, your players have to know, if you railroad in this instance, if you do something like this, that your players are going to wake up. Like, this is not a character death. You're going to wake up and have a really cool breaking out of captivity.
Well, that's a given.
Well, I don't know. You just have to make sure that they know, because if not, I've done it before where I've tried to capture my players, and your players will fight to the death and feel like they lose when they lose, and they feel like their character has just died. But if you let them know, like, hey, wink, you should get captured because it'll lead to a really cool adventure, they might be more inclined to do it.
Gotcha. So, nonetheless, they can end up on that boat, but then the boat gets destroyed. And then it sort of sets in motion the idea of, like, yeah, of course our 4 characters are not going to be eaten by the aboleth or anything. But then it sets in motion the situation where they gather the ghost ship. And this could be a bunch of role-playing, essentially, where the ghost is, you see like a, like not a bird. I don't know why I made that sound. There's a swallow.
You know what?
Is flying around.
You know where they could maybe get onto that boat. Another reason they could get on. Maybe this crazy pirate dude.
Crazy Dave.
Crazy Dave. His brother. Maybe Crazy Dave. He tells you about this ghost ship, and he says like, "This is the one way I can see we beat this aboleth is we have to resummon this ghost ship." And then he sends you out to get something, or he sends you out like, you have to go and do this, or you know what, make sure this doesn't happen. He sends you on a quest, and then when you come back, his place is just turned over. Papers everywhere, doors broken down, place looks like it's in ruins, and you kind of have to put together that he was captured, and so you're like, oh, if he got captured, he's probably at that place he told us about under the city where they're keeping. And maybe there's even like a journal open, and he's taking notes. He's like, they're breaking down my door. I know exactly where they'll take me. They'll take me right here. If you read this book, I'm here. Come get me. Come get. And he has an artifact he also has to have an artifact that'll let him summon the ghost ship, whether it's like a soul in a bottle or like a ship in a bottle, whether it's like a giant
dude, a ship in a bottle.
Mm-hmm. I know, right?
Oh, that's so
But that's
good.
another way you could get your players to that ship when it gets detached. And it then gives them the item to summon the ghost ship when they get down to it while they're already out in the water, like you said, covered, like hanging onto wreckage, having a Titanic moment, but it's the opposite, like they're holding each other under the water to breathe instead of trying to pull each other up out of the water. You know what I'm saying.
Right. Yes. And then you have this. Then there it floats on the water is this ship in a bottle, and the ship itself has this like weird foggy hue to it, and it seems like it's not really. It's like corporeal.
Yep.
I can't think of the word. You know the word. That word. In form and things like that. So it's not like this weird, or it's not like this regular wooden ship that's been built inside of a bottle. It's actually like a ghost ship inside of a bottle. And then he tells them to go to the wreck site and release the ship, and that's where the ship gets released.
And maybe that's like where he dies too. Like maybe he dies giving you this information, so you're like just kind of going 100%. From there.
Yeah, 100%. That's like grave wounds is probably the best way to sort of show your players the danger of Abe, and then at that point it becomes a very straightforward adventure of take your ghost ship buddies and let's go fight a giant aboleth with a bunch of children aboleth with it, or something like that.
I think that sounds awesome. Now I wish we could play out more of that end part of like the battle like on the ship and stuff like that. The only image I really see in my mind that I would want to play and make sure happens is like you're in this rotted underwater ship, and it like breaking through the side of the ship is one of these huge aboleth faces and like a tentacle that comes in, and you just have like a quick 2 rounds of combat with this aboleth like reaching in, attacking you, but the aboleth's going to run away. Like it's going to take damage and it's going to peace out. It's not going to stay. But just a cool, like you're running down the hallway to get to the cannons, and then it just breaks open. It's yelling. It tries to swallow somebody. It's attacking. I just think that could be a cool moment.
Are you talking about for the final fight itself?
Yeah, like once you're on the ship.
Absolutely. I think that this enslavement could also play into giving the aboleth some NPCs to use for itself during that final ship battle.
Yep.
So you could be in this like giant Kraken style battle, but also dealing with, an enslaved captain from the guard or something like that. That's like, you're messing everything up. Or it could be these cultists that have like a pirate ship, and their flags at the front of their flags are literally the aboleth itself, in that same design I was talking about earlier.
Yes, I like that. I like because it makes sense too that they would send out their own ships, or whether it's just you're fighting these people who are on the ship with you, these slaves, or these slaves / prisoners / tourists / beggars. You're fighting them, or there's also just some crazy cultists who don't mind being eaten.
Yeah. If I am eaten, I will ascend to godhood within the water realms or something. They're psychos,
Exactly.
essentially. Yeah. On top, I was gonna say? There was another thing that I was thinking about that would be really, really cool to do with this aboleth as well, but I forgot because it's Cam. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Cam.
We've only been throwing out a lot of good ideas, so we're bound to forget one.
Well, I was thinking of like one final thing for the final, like a final, encounter with this aboleth that I just couldn't recall specifically. I'm sure it'll come to me off air, but I just there is a ton that you can do with this sea battle. The aboleth could spin, like, as a lair action. We could do some fun stuff with lair actions. Instead of it being something that's written in a book, we could have the aboleth itself swim in circles around each boat, causing a massive whirlpool to start happening or something like that. Straight up steal from movies. Like, I mean, I have no problem with that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, another world this would fit right into is the world with the bards on the sea, on the open sea. Yeah, I love sea adventures, man.
I do too. I love sea adventures that go like this. Like, I've always been super interested, like, in deep sea horror, like something whispering to you type stuff. That's like my favorite genre of horror. I've been waiting for an episode to come up where we got to talk about it. Yay!
You did it, man. Well, I think that's at least a good mix of stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of good stuff in there. I think
A whole smorgasbord.
We've got the ghost ship covered. We've got we got the Centuries Festival. So we actually did it today, man. We stuck to our themes and our scenarios, and we actually were capable of building something built around those two things. So I'm happy with what we came up with today. So with that being said, it is your week for a synopsis, if I'm not mistaken. Is it, or is it my week?
I think it is. That was an awe of like, yes, good.
Okay, and if I'm wrong, then I'll do 2 weeks in a row. It's fine. So let me do a summary real quick. So your players arrive on the great and massive city that floats, carried along by a god that is unassuming and not really paying attention to the fact that it's carrying around a city with it. As the city has grown and grown and grown, boats of different sizes and of different shapes have attached themselves to the boats themselves, to the city itself, and have continued to grow the overall footprint of the city. You have arrived during the Centuries Festival, a festival that celebrates the growth and loss of the city itself. They do this by celebrating by removing excess and old ships that are no longer being utilized or that are essentially carrying too much weight against the city itself. And this shedding of the weight allows for the city to feel refreshed and renewed, and so they celebrate this. And through this celebration, your players have noticed some strange going-ons. They see in the distance a sanctioned bar brawl or a fight in the streets has led to one combatant being knocked out and then drug away. In another situation, a drinking contest that gone awry has left 4 contestants passed out on the table, and they've been carried to a medical cart. And you hear in the distance a crazy man say, you gotta watch out for this stuff. Your players go to this crazy man. They speak to this crazy man. They are approached by this crazy man, and he's got a crazy cousin named Steve, and he's, this is Dave. And
it's the large blue fish. I swear.
Yeah, it's a big blue fish. So, in other words, the players go through these processes, and in this process, they end up on the ship in a multitude of ways, whether it be through their own volition or through being captured themselves, or whatever it may be. They end up on the ship, and then through this, Dave himself has provided the players a ghost in a bottle, or a ghost ship in a bottle that they say, hey, use this. This will help you in your fight against the aboleth. Once the aboleth attacks the ship, and then we go have a cool ship battle with another ship of cultists, and this massive aboleth. And man, this is just a dope story.
It
I
really
love this
is.
one a lot.
It really is.
I feel like this one is one of our more original stories too. I'm a big fan personally, so
All right.
I'm a big fan of this guy.
Well, here we go. Here's the synopsis I was thinking of, the rough idea. You're on this disconnected, broken ship covered in barnacles and slime and seaweed. You're fighting some of these enemy cultists. Your blades have been crashing. And along the way, at some point, something is caught on fire. Maybe some oil was spilled, or maybe a fireball was cast. But now, as you're out here on the ship, all of a sudden, the fighting ceases. Everyone feels some energy, some presence that's sunk in, and as it happens, both you and the enemies freeze, and you hear Deve say, "He's here. He's in the water." You look out, and as the water is reflecting the shimmering of fire, you see 3 large eyes peer up and then disappear back into the inky water. The ship that you're on, something bumps against it, and it rocks back and forth. And then pulling up from the water, foam and splash, and 3 large tentacles rise up, along with a 7-foot wide mouth that just quickly grabs onto one of the prisoners and pulls it inside. 2 more mouths spring up from the ocean beside you, and all of a sudden it's a feeding frenzy, both friend and foe being grabbed up off the ship. And Deve says, "I'm here. I know you've been trying to eat me for years." And that's it. That's all I got.
You're the crazy blue monster.
You big blue
and
fish.
he smiles. And he's happy because he's finally
Exactly.
been proven
Yeah,
right.
he knows.
And somewhere deep within a forested town, a small little town, an old man looks up from his eyeglasses, and a glimmer of tear comes down his eyes as he knows his cousin has found his crazy blue man.
Dude, I love this one. This was a good one.
This was, yeah. I'm a big fan.
I think from now on, when people ask me what was a favorite episode, this one's up there. This one's up there.
So
for
you
sure.
will no longer say episode 1 because, ladies and gentlemen, every single time I ask Rich that exact question, he always goes, "The first one," and I go, "Oh, great! So we haven't done anything better since
We
then."
climaxed
really
early on.
appreciate
That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, it's something all storytellers suffer from sooner or later. I think there's a pill for that. So with that. So with that being said, speaking of a fan, guys, if you are a fan of this episode, if you are enjoying our content and you're having a great time listening to what we're providing, make sure to check out some of our other episodes. Also, make sure to go leave reviews on any podcatcher that you are using currently. Reviews are going to help us. Likes, shares, subscribes, hit that bell button, stuff like that. In addition to that, go check out our friends. We have some friends at some really cool
great
shows.
friends. Yeah.
We really do. We've just been blessed with this community, and guys like Cameron over at Coventry, or Adam Gatlin, and Aaron and Nick over at the Roaring Trainers, or Renee over at Fate and the Fable Maidens, or Kyle over at Bombarded. Those are some great people, and I'm sure I'm forgetting others, but they have awesome shows. They have awesome shows. If you like actual plays, those are really good actual plays to go listen to. They're fun, diverse characters, great editing, and other than that, I mean, yeah, guys, just if you like the show and you want more DMs to be out in there to tell more stories, share it with the people. I think we can help them make this process a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So,
well, hey, Cam said it. Dude, Cam, you did the outro. I'm so proud of you. I would.
Did I do the outro today?
I would normally do it, and you know what? I'm so proud. And it's the 50th episode. I'm so proud. And I just
Cam would grow up to be a big outro boy.
I just don't even know what to say. I just don't even know. Except I'll say one last thing. If you guys haven't yet either, Cameron and I were on our other friend Cameron's podcast Coventry for a 5-episode arc called Heritage. It was a superhero arc. Cam's character just about made me cry every time he talked to an adult. It was great. Cameron did a great job. Check him out. If you haven't already, I know a lot of you guys have. And then maybe in the works is another episode of a different arc coming up here soon. I don't want to tease too much before we've got anything ready, but that might be coming through the pipeline. But as always, Filling in the Gaps is not an actual play podcast, but we hope that some idea from this session helps you during the next time when you're sitting down with your friends DMing, that you've been inspired to actually play with your friends when that time comes. Until then, we'll see you guys on the next one.